What's going on, everyone? The large army tournament thing happened, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, so figured I would make a video about the games, since they were pretty interesting, and I think the theme for this video will be playing the, principles of the game, or using the principles of the game to your advantage, because something that I found in the large armies games was you're not exactly sure what the best army should be, since, these rules and these funds and the large armies themselves are not really used all that often. So, you also were given random factions, right? So you really had no idea what to expect, and you just have to play, you know, or the optimal thing to do is to play off of the principles of the game. And so that can kind of inform your decisions. Um, but even if you don't take necessarily the best armies, there's still like ideal or like, principled decisions when you're playing the game to help you play as good as you can. Maybe those principles won't always be correct. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rules, but it at least gives you a strong foundation, and then you can improvise when you think you should improvise, and stick to the basics when you think you should do that. And obviously that's something that comes with experience, and you're not always going to make the right choice, especially in a rule set where you don't really know what necessarily is the best choice all the time, or you're less familiar with it, so you don't make the correct decisions more often. But that's fine. Of course, everyone in the tournament was under the same situation, so that's important to realize as well. It's not just me that was facing like a unfamiliar situation. So it applies to everyone. So we'll go through all the games. Maybe I'll skip this game because this was kind of just a easy win. But the other games, I faced good players. I faced all the top players in the tournament, so Parmenion and Olda. I didn't face Hegerbeck, I guess, was the next best player, but he was on the opposite side of the bracket, so whatever. But 4 games against top players is quite a good sample size for an 8-person tournament. So let's uh, let's get right into it. So first matchup of the tournament itself was um, me versus Parmenion. So it's best of 1 except for grand finals was best of 3. Best of 1, you get a random faction, your opponent gets a random faction, and since it was BO1, you do not get a reroll, so you can not uh, ask for a new faction, basically. So I actually got a really nice draw in most of these games. I'd say fair. I had advantage, I would say, only in the last game, I would say. Yeah, I think the rest of them were like pretty equal, honestly. This was also probably slight ad, but I don't think this is actually a very big advantage at all, to be honest. And we'll talk about what I knew about large armies, or like what I figured would be good. But so I got Rome, Parmenion gets Massaisli. So pretty interesting matchup. The rules were 20 max infantry units total, um, 6 Javcav max or HA, whatever, missile cav, and I think that's pretty much it. Like 2 elephants, 2 chariots. The funds were medium, but it's large armies, so everything gets multiplied by 2, so this ends up being 7,800 times 2 is 15,600 funds, which is quite a lot. And if you go back on my channel, you can see some large army games that I played with Bacchus a long time ago. I had a lot of fun with those games, but those were on 13k. I suggested 13.5k. I thought 13k was a little bit low because a lot of factions wouldn't really be utilizing the large army's nature. They would just get like 23 units or something. So I thought 13.5k would allow you to get a little bit more without you know, giving you too much money. Because with this amount of money, 15.6k, you can really buy a lot of elite units, which kind of throws the game out of whack. Whereas in 13 or 13.5k, it was still like a lot about cheap units and mid tiers, which I think makes the game a lot more fun because cheap units and mid tier units are easier to like manipulate in the battle, whereas elite units are just kind of tanks. So they're a bit less interesting, but all good. Um, but yeah, so those are the rules. So I have Rome. Parmenion has Massaisli, so let's go into the armies here and see what happens. Obviously, quite a bit to take in here. So many fucking units, like it's insane. Parmenion, he went for a strategy that I kind of didn't expect. Oh my god, that's insane. Okay, so let's talk about some basic theory here. So NVIDIA has the tools to be a decent faction in these rules, because essentially the key rule about large armies is you want to take a lot of units. You really do want to have something, especially with this amount of money, you really want to have something like 30 units. Because as in 20, as in normal armies too, it's the same reason you don't want to take like 15 units or something, right? So if we, because 15 units just get surrounded by 20 units, and even if they're of very high quality, getting attacked and shot in the back just means that they're not going to perform well in melee. So you really want to have a lot of units, which means that you're going to see a lot of mid-tier and cheap infantry spam, of course. Cavalry, you're not going to be able to get cheap cavalry in general. That's not really a thing because light cav are so bad. So cavalry, you're still going to have to spend, your mid 600, 700 level mid-tier cav. You don't want to get expensive cav unless they're like cataphracts. Like that doesn't, you never want to get expensive cav in general. Except for like your general unit or some shit. So that's pretty much the same. But the real key is cheap missile units, because missile units are already very strong in this game, especially in this patch. But the fact that, one of the limiting factors usually, right? Let's say you're gonna go for a kite, you can't just take 12 missile units in a regular game with 20 unit max, like regular army size, because then you just simply don't have enough units outside of that to protect them with. And yes, you'll have a lot of money left over, but your 8 units are not going to defend your 12 slingers. However, in these rules, you have essentially unlimited units. Like, you're not going to hit 40 units. You could literally bring 15 slingers, and that's only going to cost you, like, let's say these slingers cost like 280. So let's say they cost 300. So that would only cost you 4,500, and you'd have literally 11,000 coins left to buy the rest of your army, and you have 15 slingers. Like, there's no way the enemy is going to fucking deal with 15 slingers. Now, of course, you don't actually want to bring 15 slingers. That's probably too many, but you get the point, right? You can just spam cheap missile units. So from that point of view, Numidia is in really excellent shape because they have very good mid tiers. The Desert Legionnaires at a very good mid tier price, 700. It's like dead on the cheaper side, honestly, of mid tier units, and they're not the best mid tiers, but they're cheap, so you can get a lot of them. And they have one of the best low tier infantry units in Numidian light infantry. These guys are like in between Celtics and Galatian swords in effectiveness. They cost 380, so pretty cheap. Custodian Celtic Warriors are 350, so whatever, they're just slightly more expensive. So these guys are great. Fast, good attack, good in melee, etc. So that's very nice. And they have a cheap shock cavalry option, and you can see Permian has quite a few shock cav. And this is really good because, again, mid-tier melee cav or shock cav, both are fine, but these guys are shock cav for 670. They are, heavy, so they're going to do a lot of damage on the charge. Of course, they are pretty weak. They have only 40 armor, 90 health, 50 morale, bad defense, of course. So they're not really the most impactful shock cav, but they can still do a lot of damage on the charge, and that will support their cheap infantry and sort of mid-tier melee spam well, and also will help protect their slingers. So in that count, Numidia kind of have all the right tools. They have those cheap missile spam, they have good cav, good cheap and mid-tier melee units, and then of course they also have some specialty units. So he has 2 armored Numidian cav, and you don't want to bring like so many of them in these rules because again, it's hampering your ability to take more units. So whereas like in regular 20 units, you might actually want to bring a lot of these guys because you need to spend your funds somewhere, and now you have like 4 of these guys or 6 of these guys. They're very strong, and you're not like losing out. You can still get 20 units. Here, if you get 4 or 6 of these guys, you're not going to get the 30 units most likely. I mean, you could, but it would hamper your infantry force or other cav force a lot. So it's not really worth it. And as well, you're facing Rome, so you don't really need a lot. You could take like 4 in other matchups. I'm sure that would be the meta. Like against Eastern factions, you would probably take all 6. But against Rome, certainly not necessary. But so we can kind of see they have all the right tools, Numidia, to be quite decent. Of course, I'm Rome, so like inevitably my melee is going to be stronger. But you can also think about it. Rome kind of has a lot of tools missing. Yes, their melee is going to be excellent, and that's not a problem. You have your Evocati for 890, which is very expensive for a mid tier, but they're obviously, one of the better millions in the game. But that being said, they're 890 and they don't really compare, they compare with like a Sword Follower or a Galatian Legionnaire quite closely, which are both much cheaper. So, Avocati are expensive, but at the same time, you can also take Veteran Legionnaires for 850, you can take Principes or Legionnaires for 700. So, you have your options. All your units, melee units, are better at the price than the Desert Legionnaires. You've got your Hastati for 350, an excellent choice at that price range. Not going to be as good as the light infantry, but very, very similar. Whatever. So infantry department, they look quite good, of course. And spears don't really matter. I have some cheap spears here just to round up the numbers, but we're not really, the quality of those units is kind of not really that relevant. Of course, it would be nice if they had javelins, but they don't. But then if you think about everything else, like they don't have great options outside of that. Because, okay, yes, you have two Sake Equitake Extraordinary, very nice. These guys are good. They're expensive for a shock cav, though. They are very heavy with pretty good stats, 60 armor, 100 health. If you compare that to the 40 armor and 90 health of the Armored Numidian Riders, this is quite decent, actually. So, okay, yes, you have these guys, but you can only bring two of them, so you can't really... And they're also, they cost basically 850 or 860 or whatever, so you can't really get a lot of these guys. So, you know, that that's good to have two of them, but you can only have two. Then you have nice Equites. I have three of them here. Equites are actually pretty decent because they only cost 500, but they don't really have great options in the mid-tier cav department. You could take Sake Equites, but at 650, they're not really offering you that much. You may as well just, I think, just take the Equites. If you need stronger cav, I think the Sake Equites are heavy. That can help. But against Numidia, I was like, whatever. If I take Sake Equites or regular Equites, both of them are not really doing so well against his cav. Other than that, I just need the cav to hunt slingers and, block some charges, whatever. Equites can do that perfectly fine. So, not terrible, but again, my cav force is significantly weaker than his. Of course, Jav cav, I have some Numidians. I brought all three of the available Numidians, but again, you can't bring more than three. And I brought three because, I need to deal with these guys somehow, and they're also good against his Jav cav, so these guys are pretty useful. And again, I don't have any missiles, so these guys are gonna help shoot his cav. But missiles is where Rome, so cav, I'd say Rome is like kind of average. They have some good units, but they can't bring a lot of them. They don't have any like good Jav cav because Numidians are pretty whack. I mean, I've brought them obviously, but they're still pretty whack. And melee cav, they're like fine, nothing special, but not awful. At least you have cheap options, you have mid-tier options, so good variety. But missiles is a real problem because in these large armies, like I said, you want to spam cheap missiles if you can. And Rome simply does not have the option, and elite missiles are absolute dog shit in this rule set because there's just too many melee units for the elite missiles to be effective. They cost so much, and there's just so much to shoot at that yes, you can like snipe a few units, but in general, you're not taking a lot of elite units. On these large armies, you're just spamming as much as you can to get towards 30 units. Um, so elite missiles become very, very useless. And of course, if the enemy has like 8 fucking cheat missiles or some shit, I mean, like Parmenion literally has 7 tribal slingers. Imagine like 3 Syrians against 7 tribal slingers. That they cost almost the same. I think the tribal slingers are split like 2 tribal slingers count for a single Syrian, more or less. So he's only spent slightly more, but the 7 tribal slingers will absolutely demolish the Syrians, and they'll also be able to kill a lot of enemy units in the process, like focus firing cav and stuff, whereas the Syrians can just do less because there's simply less of them. So there's really no point in bringing elite missiles in this, it just doesn't work. You could try like some like full kite crazy like 6 elite missile spread and then bring a bunch of Hastati, maybe, but that seems like a bit risky. Then your cav is going to be weak. You have to worry about these, Jav cav when your Jav cav is not good. So there's all sorts of problems with that. So that's a real problem for Rome. So we can look at my army quickly, and obviously I'm investing heavily in melee. So I have up front just like 4 Vigilies. I knew he was going to take armored Numidian cabs, so my Vigilies are just purely sacrificial. They only cost me 200. Again, I have 15,600, so spending 800 on these 4 charge blockers is actually a very, very good investment because it doesn't really cost me anything, but it makes sure that my melee line is going to get into his melee line safely. And that's a huge deal because if my melee line gets in, they're going to start to dominate that fight. And that's going to put pressure on him to win somewhere else before I just kill all his melee and then chase the slingers down with my cav. So these Vigilies actually serve a very useful purpose, and they don't cost me pretty much anything. Then melee line, I have 4 Principes and 3 Evocati. Principes are gonna do fine against the Desert Legionnaires. They have slightly I think better attack the Principes do. 47, 35, 53. No, they have actually slightly better defense and the same attack. So yeah. 80 armor, 60 health. Principes have 75 armor. So they have 5 more attack, defense, sorry, but 5 less armor. So they're pretty much, yeah, Desert Legionnaires are like Legionnaires, I think. Yeah, Legionnaires and Principes just have that 5 more defense, but 5 less armor. So they will trade very, very similarly with the Desert Legionnaires. And of course, the Ebikai are going to be much better than anything he has on the field. So that's my 7 melee, and he only has 6 like heavy melee units or mid tiers. So I have more of that, as you'd expect for Rome to have more melee. And I have a fuck ton of Hastati. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Hastati, because again, you just want to spam units. So I have a fuck ton of Hastati. You know, he has 6 light infantry, I have 8 Hastati, I have 1 more melee unit. Actually, no, he has another Desert Legionnaire back here, so it is 7 versus 7 in the main line. But I have essentially 2 more Hastati and also 4 more Vigiles. Whereas you can see he has no protection for his front line, so you know he's planning on charging his cav forward, no doubt. Of course, me charging into him with my cav is probably a bad idea because I have to kill these slingers at some point. He has 7 of them, which are more than enough to kill so many of my units in the late game, so I can't really directly charge him. But you know, so he doesn't really need those, like, he doesn't need to bring some Numidian Spearmen or Desert Vigiles or anything, because he has cheaper cav that he can afford to lose, and he has more of it than I can realistically bring. My cav force is 3 Equites and 2 Sac Equite Extraordinarii. These guys can countercharge and do a lot of damage to his Army Numidian Riders, so that's useful, and these guys are just more like support. Um, you know, if they get into an Armored Dominion Rider after it's charged unit, you know, they can countercharge and do well. They can win fights with supporting the Hastati, etc. Also have the 3 Numidians. As I said, these guys will be useful, just like corralling his Armored Numidian cav. I can also just leave them in front of my army, so that if he runs his cav forward to charge me, you know, they can get some shots off and then run away. So that's useful as well. And again, they just want to focus these guys. And when the battle starts engaging, the front lines start engaging each other, then they can flank and start shooting his cav, so that they can't wrap and surround me, which will be useful. Because if I start getting surrounded, then he's slingers, you know, if there's a battle line here, and he starts flanking, and I need to draw my, you know, Hastati or everything to support, his slingers are going to get nice rear shots on those units, so I don't want him to be able to attack me on the flanks. I want to attack him on the flanks instead. And my Numidians can be a driving force for that, as well as the fact that I just have extra melee units that he just can't really counter because I just have so much more melee. Then I have 3 dogs, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about, and you might be like, oh, dogs, that's the meme. But realistically, the dogs can either do really bad or really good. It does depend. But I was thinking, like, there's so many melee units, right? It's going to be very hard for me to actually get to his slingers early in the battle. Because I have to go all the way around. He's got melee units to defend. He's got cav to defend. The only time I can get to his slingers is once my infantry breaks through the center, and then my cav can run up the center with the infantry and get at his slingers. Or I break his infantry on the flank. But I have to kill his infantry first, essentially. That's the main thing. But dogs can just slip through a gap. Like, let's say these guys run forward, there's a battle here, you know, these guys are fighting here. If I send my dogs through this gap, they will kill this slinger instantly, pretty much. They will fucking one-shot slingers, and then the dogs will move on to the next slinger, and the next slinger, right? So, if I can get my dogs into his slingers, you know, maybe one dog up the middle in the gap, one through the left, one through the right, then I can do a lot of damage to his slingers while my infantry is still fighting in the center. If I leave his slingers untouched, for so long until I, you know, can finally break through, I'll likely have lost the battle by then because there's just too much cav and too much slingers to realistically kill in the late game if they can shoot for like 5 minutes before I can start getting to them. So it's going to be quite difficult to do that. So the dogs, in my opinion, are Rome's counter to missiles because Rome is going to rush because they don't want to bring elite missiles. So the dogs are key at just tying down or getting to slingers and KOing them early in the battle. Of course, you can deal with it. Dogs are not that hard to deal with, but you know you have to take your chances with the dogs. You know, these only cost me 450, so 450 times 3 is about 1k, so that's 1/15 of my army, maybe a bit more. That's not really a lot, so it's cheaper than bringing my own missiles, my own elite missiles, and the elite missiles aren't going to do anything to his slingers anyway. He'll just focus them down. So this seems like a better investment to me. They're not really going to do anything to his Numidian cav because they're just heavy, so he can just run into the dogs and kill them with impact damage. But his slingers will absolutely crumble the dogs, and if you get them in clean into a slinger unit, you will fuck them up. So there are the armies. Also, I didn't mention this, but his general is in a peltas unit. That seems like a good idea. That's fine. You know, he could put it in a cav unit, but then the cav unit would be kind of useless. You don't want to use the Numidian cav or the Army Numidian riders early because, with your gen at least, because it's just so risky. You can get fucked up pretty fast. So we're gonna do some skirmishing early, but hopefully that army explanation kind of explains like my understanding of the principles of this format, these rules. And again, I didn't really know exactly what he would take. He could have taken, you know, more infantry, less cav. He could have taken like some kind of kites. He could have taken like 5 peltas. that would definitely be viable. And just shoot my Avocati with them, so his Legionnaires will win in melee. But I brought an army that I thought would be okay, based on the fact that I knew Slingers were powerful, and I knew he would take a melee spam with some Cav. My army kind of deals with that. I don't really have an answer for the Slingers, but I took the dogs, maybe hoping to, have some kind of mechanism to kill Slingers without having to get my Cav in there. So, he's much wider than me, he has a lot more Cav. I do not want to match his width. I want to rush one side. It's not good for me to try to like spread out, because yes, I have more melee, but I don't have as much cav, so I'm just gonna get my cav killed doing that. Instead, I'll just wrap around one side only. I choose to go to the left here. This is not really the best decision. I should probably have gone this way, because here I'll take right side shots into the unshielded side. Not ideal, because the slingers will do more damage. But I plan on turning to and facing him anyway, so it's probably not a huge deal. Again, I don't really care if he shoots my Vigiles, because they're just fodder units. It really doesn't matter. Here you can see I predict that he might try to charge me, so I just preemptively run my Numidian up to see if he would run forward and then just run back, so I don't take fire. He does do it right after, so here I come back again, and I kind of get them caught here. I tried to block his charge, but you can see they're already in the charging animation, so I thought he might be trying to charge this unit and not this unit, or maybe this unit instead. But he's actually just charging my Vigile, which is a bad decision objectively. But it does mean that my Numidian's gonna get caught here and not be able to javelin him, which is not ideal. Here my Vigile again is completely happy to take this charge. They don't really care. I mean, they're gonna fucking die, but that is an okay thing to happen. Here, okay, so the Numidian killed my Numidian's completely dead. didn't really do anything, unfortunately. His Cav didn't take too much damage. I'm trying to get a Javelin Volley here. I try to get a Javelin Volley with these Principes. Not really successful, but again, my Principes are now into his melee, and they haven't been charged. So that's quite nice. Here I get a nice Javelin Volley with these Astadi, which means they're not going to get a Javelin Volley here, unfortunately. So I'd use a Cav unit. So I think, they use their Javelin Volley here. Taking a charge when he gets a Javelin Volley and I don't is going to be bad for me, so I'm going to let him Javelin my unit and then charge with my Equite, so my Equite won't take a Jav Volley. A bit static here. I should be trying to engage or shift this way, so I can just rush this flank. But you can see I'm going to get two of my Evocadian Principes onto his light infantry here, or maybe this guy's going to have to charge here, and Hastati will have to fill this gap. But this is going to be a good fight for me, because this Principe can just overwhelm this flank with the Hastati and some Cav, and that will be quite nice. So that would be good, and you can see his units here are pretty far away from the fight, so they're not really a threat at the moment. My Vigile survives the charge, so they're just going to run in here and take Javelins from his units, and block a charge potentially from here. So you can see this Desert Legionnaire is not going to get Javelins on my Principe when it charges in, because my Vigile is taking the Javelins from them, so very nice. That'll be good for me. Here I fucking did a accidental oopsie with my units. I fucked up the formation, so I had to react quickly here. I was just like, whatever, fuck it, I made a mistake, but I'm just gonna rotate my army this way anyway, so it's not really a huge deal. I'm not gonna engage at the center, but it looks kind of fucking retarded because it is. But yeah, so now he goes back for another charge here. You can see I try to block it with my Vigile, and I actually do a pretty good job. I get two Javelin Volleys in here, so now his Rider is 43 men. He does get a charge into some of my Principes, though. So I'm going to probably lose this fight because of that, but his Rider is pretty weak, so that's about as good as I could have hoped for. Here, again, Avocado going to just charge his Light Infantry. Here, he ran away with his Light Infantry, so I was like, okay, whatever, this guy's just fucking bailing. I've got another Hastati on the way to help this fight. I don't really need to commit here. It's better for me to just rear charge here and just get this unit out of the way so I can keep going towards the Slingers. Because if I go all the way over here, this unit is not really a huge threat. It's more about getting forward, going up the line into his Slingers, and then wrapping his cohorts in the center, or his Desert Legionnaires anyway. So I am going to just take that rear charge. If he tries to kill this Hastati, whatever, I got Numidians here, this unit can countercharge. It's not really a big deal. He does have his Lancer over here, though, that will probably countercharge me, but again, that Lancer is going to be stuck next to my Numidians, next to my Hastati and my Principes here, so that's completely fine. Avocado getting a charge into his Light Infantry. Again, I'm just trying to reorder my units around so they'll fucking not do something dumb. Here, I just go for a frontal charge. Not necessary. Again, this was probably a mistake. And I'm in some thick-ass formation because of the formation glitch, so they're going to take even more damage to javelins. Does he get the javelins off? Yeah, he's going to get the javelins off, so... Ooh, yeah, not really, but you can see he gets some. But I get charged into both of these units, that's pretty good. Here again, my Vigilators just take the charge. Nice job, Vigilators, you did it. Good shit. And you can see exactly what I said happens here. He charged my Hastati with his Armored Minion Cav, but they haven't even like done that much in the battle. This is very early in the battle to use these units on the frontal charge, especially when you have a Lancer here. So now I just countercharge with my Equite, my other Hastati is on the way. I'm gonna win this fight, and my new minions just sit here and throw javelins into the blob. So that's a really good use for the new minions. Dogs, you can see, released. They are gonna KO this slinger. I also have a Cav unit coming through here, but he might try to defend against my Cav unit, so I can just run my Cav away and let the dogs deal the damage there. The other dogs, you can see I'm trying to move this one into this gap and then shoot this slinger with the dog. And I should be using this dog, honestly, like, right through this gap, right here, into this slinger. But I was a bit slow to use the dogs, just because there's so much micro happening. But you can see the dogs get in really clean. This is good. And they're just gonna start massacring the fucking slingers. But some of them just fucking got insta-killed? What? I'll be honest, I really don't understand how dogs work. Oh no, okay, they're okay. They're getting up. But yeah, you can see the slinger is just getting fucking rolled. It hasn't killed a single dog yet. My Cav does come in here, and this is actually a bad decision. It's gonna get my dogs charged in the back here, so not good. But here I'm just winning this fight. You can see his new minions are taking heavy damage already, so that's really good. Center fight is just a fucking chaotic blob. You can see I kind of pulled through here by accident. It looks like I stopped that from happening. Yeah, I stopped that from happening. But you can see Avocado versus Legion is probably good for me, but now his flank is on the way. So he's going to start surrounding me, which is not good, in fact. Here I released these dogs as well. I don't really see where they've gone, though. Dogs, I don't really know. Oh well. Here he charges his rider into 2 Hastati, but I didn't get a great counter charge here, unfortunately. But his rider took a lot of damage, 2 javelin volleys there, so that's okay. This Principate and these Abacog are going to be like isolated and recharged here soon. I should have put like a unit here just to like block this, but both my Hastati are kind of busy at the moment. Over here, I'm just winning decisively. I killed his entire flank, so now I'm going to be able to get after these slingers pretty effectively, which is good. You see the dogs killing his slinger. And there's only 5 men in the slinger unit, so when these 5 men die, you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, probably someone else is in here somewhere. When they all die, the dogs just go to the nearest non-riding unit and just start killing them, so that's good. Here, you know, he's got this minion out here just playing on the flank with his riders. So again, he's surrounding me on this flank, but that makes sense. I'm surrounding him over here, so that's a natural reaction for him. You can see his slingers are getting some nice. Oh, nice dog actually up the center from this dog. So that's all 3 dogs, but they're getting right into his slingers and just killing them. So again, look at these slingers not shooting. Instead, they're just dying, and that's good because there goes this slinger, then this slinger, then this slinger. That's the hope, at least. But I didn't get a dog into these slingers, so I used 2 dogs on the left when 1 dog should go up the center, 1 on the left, and 1 through this gap to the right. And that way I would hit all 3 of the slinger groups. That would be a bit better. On this flank, I'm just dying here. Here, this Hastati overcommits. It should just stood here and charged his Cav, and then I could countercharge with, like, you know, one of these Cav units. But letting myself get recharged here is really cringe. And now he's going to rush this flank. And now things are actually kind of bad because his slingers are damaging me in the center quite heavily. You can see how fast the dogs are killing the slinger, by the way. But he's winning the center. He's winning this flank and he's going to start wrapping. However, I do have the majority of my infantry units on the left. So while he is killing my center and right, and that might sound bad, it's like 2 of the 3 fighting zones. It's really not that much of my infantry. Most of my infantry is over here, so it's not that bad. And I've also, this melee has gone on for quite a while, so these fights are actually, you know, you can see these digital legionnaires are 60 men, 69 men here, 52 men. So even though I'm losing, I've done a lot of damage because his flank hasn't come like immediately. You know, like it's not like he surrounded me as soon as we fought. It's quite a bit into the melee, so that's okay. Here we're just like taking some fights against his other units. I charged my new minion here, accidentally wasted them. They just got charged. That was dumb. But I couldn't get my Equite to support in time, and now he can just like kill my Equite also. This is a bit of just mismicro, honestly. Try to get after him. He kind of mismicros as well, but Equite, oh, he gets a javelin volley there, which kills a bunch of my guys, and now his army minions can just win this fight. I guess they just run away and shoot me. I was inside his unit, so I might as well keep chasing him, but the army minions just win this. Because they're goated, and they get like 3 javelin volleys that just kill my entire unit. Here, so I countercharge his cav, try to just do as much damage to his cav as I can. Out here, you can see my other minion just getting around to the back, so now I need to collapse on his slingers, because you can see I've done a really good job of actually eliminating a lot of his cav, because he has a lot of cav behind my lines, but that's okay, because as long as these units don't rout, he can't get back to his slingers. Whereas you can say my, this army minion rider is engaged, probably gonna die soon. Then I have like a couple of units here, unit here, 60-man Sakuku Extraordinarii, so it's gonna kill off these army minion riders. These two are almost dead, so these cav are not really a big threat. I have one Numidian that can collapse from behind. This unit's almost dead, and then I have my general and this other half-strength Sakuku Extraordinarii to commit for his slingers, because nothing else is gonna kill his slingers at this point. You can see, unfortunately, these slingers are running away from my dogs. The dogs are 16 men, so they're not like a lot of dogs left because they came through this melee fight. Dogs do not do well in real melee, but so my dogs are not going to get into his slingers. I'm out of dogs. You can see his slingers still just doing massive damage to the Avocati. Gets a nice javelin volley on my Extraordinarii, but okay, they get away. And now I just need to gun it for his slingers. You can see here I can go for a charge. I just need to make his slingers be distracted for as long as possible. That's kind of the key. If they're not shooting, even if they're just running around, as long as they're not shooting, I can get my other units in position to strike. And another key thing is this fight, he did recharge me here, but my Avocati are just tanking this fight. They killed the unit here, so these are his flanking units, but they killed the units from the center. And so now his slingers are just like exposed here, so I don't have to fight these units. I can leave my Principe here to die and just run at his slingers with my infantry, get my cav in. Again, this Desert Legionnaire in the center is losing as well, so the center is about to open up in my favor actually. Because he hasn't been able to kill these units, and the Avocati are just tanked these fights. So now I'm just trying to prevent his slingers from running. You can see now my Hastadier just like, fucking get in there. My Numidian is charged. He has no cav units here, so I can just charge for free. His Numidians aren't quite in time. And I'm just going to get my units in. Here I see this charge coming, so I try to get some javelins off. Looks like I managed to block the charge pretty much. So now he only has one cav unit here, and it's an armored Numidian rider at about half, or it's at 55 men, but it's no match for my 57-man Extraordinarii. So I just charge into the blob, kill as many slingers as I can. Yes, this unit will probably escape, but this blob is like a massive amount of slinger deaths, which he can't really afford at the moment. My general and my other Sakuku Extraordinarii are dominating the flank here. These fights are close, but it doesn't really matter, because I have a lot of infantry left here. I'm going to win these fights eventually because of my other spare units here. 91 Avocati, 68 Principe, 47 Principe, a bunch of Hastadi in reserve. So the main thing is just to get to the slingers, and that's just going to happen. My Avocati here, or my Extraordinarii, sorry, here just goes through everything. I have a small unit here that can just route these slingers and chase them down so they don't return. And my Numidians are tying down his armored Numidian cav. Not killing anything, but just tying them down. Bunch of meaningless fights. I have enough infantry to win the game right here, so don't need to worry about infantry, just need to kill the slingers. And so that's what I'm doing. And yeah, so we just go after the slingers here. His general is just throwing some javelins, killing a lot of my men, but it doesn't really matter. I just need to route these guys off the field. I do charge here, and I guess I turn around for his general. Maybe not the best decision, but I thought I could just kill his general here, and that would rout his slingers. They do rout anyway, so nice. And now it's just about consolidating, and I'll win this game, 100%. His armored Numidian cav, he's using it to kill my infantry while my Extraordinarii is busy. This is good from him. He's trying to kill off my infantry with his cav, but my Extraordinarii will live. Kills his general. I have another unit here, so he can never go after me here. His general is out of the fight, so he can't second wind anything, so I'm trying to just rest and then walk at him while he's still tired. You can see I'm pretty rested here. I'm about to get another second wind soon. To second wind maybe like one of my Hastadi or something, or maybe like this Principes, since these units are fresh. But he actually is pretty rested here, active, winded, so I decided to just wait until I can second wind this Hastadi, and now I'm going to move forward. Again, I just need, the only way I lose this game is if I somehow lose all my cav and his cav survives. Like if my cav is dead here, I will lose this game. Like all 3 of my cav are dead, I will lose this game. But as long as my Extraordinarii can just countercharge his cav and I can get infantry support in, it's not really a problem. And I have 2.5 chances with my general to stop him from charging me and killing me. So he goes for a charge, he tries to bait at the last second here, but he just takes a javelin volley for it. I still get into him, and that's fine, so he's going to lose a lot of men there. My Extraordinarii is going to get kind of fucked here. He's just getting killed by his infantry, but now my infantry is into his infantry, so that's good. You can see my extraordinary lives long enough to get another charge into his unit. As long as he's not charging me, he's not going to kill me here, so I'll just win this game with my superior infantry numbers. So a very close game for the first game of the tournament. A really close, a really exciting game. A lot of action. You have me flanking this way, he counter flanks on my right, going after the slingers. But yeah, I think this kind of shows that even though the armies were kind of different and there's like more going on, you can still just play kind of like a normal style where your decisions are very similar to decisions you would make in normal games. Um, with normal army size, it's not really like a big difference. Just make the smart decisions. Try to get after those slingers. Don't let the slingers kill you in the late game. Um, Blocking his cavalry with my Vigiles. Normally in a 20-unit army, these Vigiles would be kind of surplus to requirements because you just don't have enough unit slots. You can't afford to spend it's not the 800 coins that matters. It's really the 4 out of 20 unit slots. You can't spend a fifth of your army on Vigiles that are going to get one shot. But with this many units and more money, it's like, oh, well, it's like a fucking no-brainer. Like, these guys just save my infantry from getting completely fucking shattered by his shot cav, and that's really a great sacrifice. Dogs actually did pretty good. Most of these are slinger kills, so that's like, you know, two of his slingers. The problem was I took melee fights near his slingers while my dogs were getting into them, which just means those dogs didn't need to be there because my cav was already killing his slingers. Like a second after my dogs got in, so I could have used my dogs more proactively on the slingers that I was going to take longer to kill. So his slingers on the right would have been, and center would have been a better dog target. But overall, I'm not ready to go after the kills. Doesn't really matter. Kind of wasted my Numidians. He didn't use one of his armor Numidians well either. But let's go on to the second game. So uh, now I face Ulda, and we rolled Boya at Parthia, which is kind of a crazy matchup in large armies. I had Boya, he had Parthia. Very interesting matchup. We played for fun Armenia Arverni, which is like the kind of like beta version of this matchup. This is kind of the Chad version. And so, quick idea how to win the matchup. Like, I won with lag. Okay, yeah, I won the matchup when we played for fun, as Arverni against his Armenia. But I think the key is that, he's going to learn more from that loss than I'm going to learn from that win, most likely. And it's not really the same matchup, it's slightly different. So we can go over the armies quickly. He's going for something interesting. He has, like, a spam of Parthian swords and Hillmen. Parthian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Parthian swords. 6 Hillmen. 4 horse archers. And they're just regular formations, yeah. And then he has 1 camel spear. He has Eastern Kata, Eastern, camel, Eastern. So 1, 2, 3, 4 Eastern cataphracts, 2 camel cataphracts, and a royal catagen. So pretty basic army. Now, I get why you want to have a lot of infantry. I really do, because the infantry are gonna what allows your cataphracts to cycle. So having that, Hillman even to like let your cataphract charge in, then your Hillman charges in, and then your cataphract retreats. That's like staple Parthia. And you can't have only Hillman. You need some Parthian swords, otherwise your infantry will just die, and then Boya will just box and win. But I'm kind of surprised he doesn't have more missile units. Like, I would at least take 6 horse archers, because he, like, might as well. And you'll see later in the game, like, the horse archers are so fucking annoying. Because I'm gonna have to box, there's no doubt about that, so he can fully surround me. Which means the horse archers are just gonna be able to shoot me for free once he does, like, an engagement. But I'm also surprised he doesn't just take, like, 3 Eastern Slingers or Eastern Archers and just, like, park them at the back of the map. He doesn't even need to use them early when my slingers can shoot at them. It's just not worth it. But if he's gonna go for this rush strat, which is like perfectly valid, I think he may as well take like, I don't know, 1 less Parthian sword and just stick 3 Eastern Slingers to the back of the map. Or 1 less Cataphract and stick like 3 Eastern Slingers to the back of the map. I don't know. Maybe it's too expensive to do that, especially if you want to get 6 Horse Archers. Maybe 6 Horse Archers is probably enough. But 3 Eastern Slingers I can't get to. Once he does like an engagement and like kills a bunch of my shit, and then I reform and try to box again, then you bring, my slingers are probably gonna die in his first charges, because I just can't protect them that effectively. Then you bring up the Eastern Slingers and you just shoot me to death. I think that makes like the most sense. But, it's seen again. Again, we're not sure what the best decisions are in these these rules. I have a pretty, army that makes a lot of sense, I'd say. So Boyai, like, you don't need to take veteran spears only because your sword followers will do good against cataphracts. I mean, your veteran spears will do even better. They're very heavy with cavalry counter tactics. These guys, and great armor, great defense, bonus versus large. These guys can actually withstand a cataphract charge pretty well. But you do need swords exactly for this reason that he has swords. If I took all spears, I just wouldn't have the killing power to win. But of course, you want to have some spears and some swords. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sword followers, and Oaththorn General. That felt like a good amount of mid-tier swords. Again, they're going to do fine against cataphracts. They will help in extended melee. If his cataphract charges me, I charge him back with my cav and tie him down. The sword followers will help a lot in a fight like that. But I don't have too many sword followers. I only have 2 veteran spears. I felt like that's probably a fine amount. Just like 2 units that are really going to be focusing on killing cataphracts. That's their main job. I also have 1 spear warrior. Just had the funds for it. The extra damage and cavalry counter tactics and stuff is nice. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Levy Freemen. Okay, again, 210 with javelins. You can just spam the fuck out of them. And then I also have 1, 2, 3, something like 4, 5 Celtic warriors. Again, just cheap. They can block a charge. They can kill Hillmen. Obviously, I want my Levy free to block the charge more than my Celtics, just because they're slightly more expensive. But you need to have some. I prefer to have some Celtics in here and not just like get 10 Levy Freemen and get slightly better melee, because again, they're going to be good against the Hillmen, and they can let my sword followers focus on his Parthian swords. Celtics kill the Hillmen, Levy Freemen die to the cataphracts. I also have some slingers. I have like 5 slingers or something, which are just being spread out against sword structures. They're just so he can't freely shoot me, and they can also just like, if you had some Eastern slingers or something, they could just bait some of those missiles out. But I don't expect to be able to keep them alive to the late game. But, another thing that it does is that when he, charges in, there's a melee that's going to happen. He has to go in and commit to kill these slingers, because if he just lets the slingers live, I'll eventually win the melee. And if I have slingers left, then his horse archers can't just like kill my late game box very effectively. So he has to commit units to killing them, which just means he has to go deeper into my lines where I can get some cataphract kills. So they're a bait for his cataphracts. Not really a bait because he has to take it, and I know he's gonna take it. And it's not a bait because he should kill the slingers. Like, that's something he has to do. But it's just a means at getting more cataphract kills, which is the entire point of the game. Is just kill as many cataphracts as you can. And then keep reforming. This is like exactly like Boya versus Parthia in 4.6.12 or whatever rules. It's like pretty much always the same. Boya boxes, Parthia surrounds, and tries to just crush it with cataphracts. Very interesting. A thing for me is like he's gonna charge everywhere, so I need to like commit to grouping my units because I can't save everything. If I try to fight in every direction, I can win some fights early on, but the cataphracts are going to wear me down, and I won't have as much support if I'm spread out. So I have to take the fight in everywhere initially, but what I do with my reserves, you can see it, like I have reserves after reserves after reserves, my cab as well, these spears back here, all reserves, my general, these Celtics, The question is, what do I do with the reserves? Can I keep myself grouped up enough and not spread out to the point where I just get surrounded and killed? I need to like stay together as much as possible. He just like fucking clicks attack orders everywhere. I think he just like went in like this. And I just typed to him like in chat like, oh my god, this is so scary. Cause look at this fucking charge. Like, he's just coming from every fucking direction. So I can't, obviously I'm gonna countercharge here. I don't want to let his Camel Spearman charge me for free. That's like the one unit that can actually countercharge and not lose to. So I bring out my heavy horse here. My slinger's just getting some shots. He's not even using an ammo beforehand, and this is a good decision. Like, there's no point for him to try and skirmish with my slingers. He's just going to lose more men than it's worth. He may as well just commit and use the horse archers with full ammo in the late game. Or the mid game as well, because once I charge, these slingers are going to start to get hit, and then the horse archers can come in and start shooting. So let's just keep this on slow motion. I need to just like kind of sit here. I kind of gave some attack orders with a couple of you Freemen, for the cataphracts that are inevitably coming. But I kind of don't even need to do that. Like, they'll just get javelins when they charge in. You can see he kind of baits these Levy Freemen out. Here I block his Camel Spearman charge, so this is good. They almost make it in. Kind of a weird charge. Alright, that was just weird. But you can see he tries to bait out my Levy Freeman by just not committing, which is good. So I have to retreat. Again, this is all good because the closer his infantry get, the easier it'll be for my infantry to get in without getting charged, which is exactly what I need. Here you can see again I'm trying on the flanks to just target everything. I think here I give like a late attack order, or they just throw javelins. Yeah, they just throw javelins. But this is probably not great, like he's getting in pretty for free. But here, he doesn't have an infantry unit, right? So what he wants to do is charge in with his cataphract, infantry support, cataphract pull out, and then cataphracts like flank and try to kill shit on the flank. But here he doesn't have an infantry unit, so I'm like, okay, you can charge my Celtic, that's fine. But I'm going to countercharge you with my spear and my cow, and you can't run away, because if you just run away, the cataphracts are too slow. The heavy horse will chase them down and kill them. Here again, camel cataphracts, losing 8 men on the charge to my Levy Freeman. They might not even get a charge. Yeah, they don't get a charge. So that's huge. Here you can see my Levy Freemen are happy to take his infantry charge as well. Like that's equally good because that means my infantry can just walk in behind my Levy Freeman and he won't get a charge. So that's fine as well. Here Camel Spearman dying, Celtic Warriors can just commit on his Hillman and kill them pretty easily. He does have a Parthian sword here, so this sword follower should line up with this Parthian sword, this Celtic with this Hillman, you know, with this Celtic, this Parthian sword, with this sword follower. That's the kind of thing I want to do, is line up my my mid tier with his mid tier, my cheap with his cheap. That just makes the most sense. You can see, so I'm starting to commit here. Again, I got these pre-attack orders on some of his units. You can see now when his infantry charges in, I say, okay, I'm pretty much safe to just charge my infantry, and he can't charge from behind his own men. So I'm gonna just commit. Here comes his melee units. You know, I get my charges here, I get my charges here, all good. So early game, you know, as expected, I get my javelins off and get into his infantry. All pretty good here for the initial fights. But the question is now, once my infantry has to engage, then he has like again like 8 cataphracts or some shit, and he can start to flank. And I'm gonna start running out of units to actually defend. So here, kind of base my Levy Freeman. I get a countercharge with my sword followers. And this was kind of a mistake from him. He uses his general here. He does have a nice charge lined up, but if he ever commits his general, I'm just gonna like sell out to kill him. It's just such a, again, he doesn't have a lot of infantry here. It's gonna be hard for his general to escape. I have like my general and a bunch of other units here, so obviously I'm gonna go charge his general there. Again, here he just like fucking psycho charges my spear warriors with his cav. And again, this is all like fine for him. It doesn't look good. Like this unit is gonna be a fucking goner, but look how much like of my units it's taking to kill it. It takes my spear warrior, which is gonna insta die, my heavy horse, which can then chase his unit if he tries to run away. And now I'm committing these units, which is probably just a bad decision, but I'm trying to kill this unit as fast as possible, because the cataphracts can just sit there and survive pretty much forever. And now the horse archer is starting to get into play as well. But my box looks pretty good so far, I would say. Here again, he didn't have an infantry support, so wherever he doesn't have infantry support, I'm obligated to just chase those cataphracts. If I let them run away, I've done a grave disservice to myself, right? So I chase him down with my heavy horse. And just tie his unit down, so I'm going to win that melee easily. Here, his general charges in, but my heavy horse are chasing here. And again, I can just like keep chasing him because his infantry instant died. So now his heavy horse is my heavy horse are at liberty to just continue to chase here. Over here again, his cataphracts are getting some nice side charges in, and so now he just has to look for gaps. Like I'm engaged like a line here, so he comes through this little gap and just charges me in the side. Those are the things cataphracts are looking for. And now that my units are tied down, you know, if this cataphract can break through and just insta kill this Levy Freeman, start recharging me, you look, I have no cav here, completely open. So his cav should be looking to get through these gaps and, you know, cause problems. This other cataphract here is again getting chased down by a lot of my units, but this, you know, veteran spear being pulled out of position. These are the tiny mistakes that matter in like a box game like this. Here again, Camel Cataphract doesn't get a great charge though through the back of his own men. Again, but if he had just wrapped around the flank here, again, this unit's just out of position, or helped his general out here. But his general is starting to take a lot of damage, unnecessarily, you might say. Another sword follower here can target his Parthian sword here. Here, I don't have cav, so yes, his infantry is dead, but his cavalry can still run away because my cav is fucking dead. In these fights, right? So if we look at, I had 5 cav to begin with. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, so all my cav is still alive. That's quite good. But it's only the first phase of the game. He still has very healthy cataphracts. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, 2 of his cataphracts are kind of dead. Maybe, you know, his general is also in a bit of trouble right now. But he still has 4 healthy cataphracts, and I don't have as much javelins or just units to defend anymore. His horse archers are also nicely shooting this cataphract, so if we trade cataphract for horse archer here, or for cav here, that's not a terrible trade for him because he had no infantry, so this cataphract should be just dead for free. But instead, he's gonna kill a heavy horse for it. If we trade off all the heavy horses, 1 for 1 with his cataphracts, it's actually terrible for me. So his camel cataphract is gonna go save his general here. But again, this is an isolated heavy horse. It's a free kill. My sword followers are not very close yet. So that's good play by him. This cataphract again was isolated completely, but he uses his horse archers to help kill off my heavy horse, where I thought my heavy horse was going to win this fight in extended melee. His horse archers turned that around. And now he's getting some infantry units around the flank. Again, I can tie it down with something, but he's still going to have additional units that can crush the flank. And you can see, now my cheaper units are starting to break. Which means, again, he just kills off those cheap units. Now his cataphracts can start breaking through. Less javelins and less support. I can never take a 1v1 heavy horse versus cataphract. There always needs to be a supporting unit there. So if my supporting units are all tied down, his cataphracts have free reign over the battlefield. Here again, his cavalry cataphract just got a nice charge. All my heavy horse, they're gonna survive a little bit. His charge was through his general, so it wasn't like a great charge, but it did allow his general to just dip. 40 men, not terrible. This cataphract 40 men, again, it's fine. He's got more cataphracts in support. Here again, the box is sort of breaking down. I was accidentally chasing this unit. Now he has 2 cataphracts for 1. You know, even if these units were right here in the box, he could just charge. He has infantry support. These guys are infantry support. His cataphracts are now breaking through the lines, and this is really dangerous. This is where Parthia starts to like claw back into the game. Is when their cataphracts can start breaking through the box and recharging stuff and ending fights. Because every fight that he ends means more free units for him, which means he can tie down more of my reserves, which means his cataphracts are more and more free to keep charging and recharging other fights. But you know, this comes at a cost. Look how many of his units have already lost their fights. You know, in the center, he's lost quite a few units. A bunch of his units died over here before he was able to save them. He's losing over here. You know, my rear is still filled with my units. So this is, you know, this is all part of the game. He's getting into my box late. I've already killed some of his units, but now he's starting to, you know, make it back into the fight by killing some of my units with his cav. Here, I know this fight's gonna last a bit longer, so I do want to, you know, engage these units. But I have a heavy horse in there already. He's trying to run away. He can, but he's probably taking a lot of damage here, so I'm okay with that. That's completely fine. His general kind of got caught here on my sword follower, but he's going to realize that now and run away. But now, again, his general kind of got caught out. When his general escaped with the help of this camel cataphract, he should have ran him away towards safety somewhere. Instead, he tries to go back for another engagement here, but now my next heavy horse says, I'm chasing you down. Like, again, no infantry support, and now no cavalry support, because this camel cataphract is almost dead. It means that I can just chase his royal cataphract to the end of the earth. Yes, you could try to use this cataphract, but now I have an infantry unit here to block his cataphract while my heavy horse chases his gen. So that's kind of my plan. But again, he is busting through my left flank. Again, individual units that survive for me are not really relevant. Like, yes, these guys are great. You have a sword follower that lived, but the box integrity is broken. You can see, like, once I was, like, the box was here, now there's just gaps everywhere, and gaps just favor Parthia heavily. You know, he's got this cataphract that just killed my slinger, but now my heavy spears, or my veteran spears, are going to come into play and try to do their best to just kill cataphracts in the open field. You know, they're not as useful in the box because everything can protect each other, but in the open field, sword followers are much worse than veteran spears at killing cataphracts. And my slingers are still alive, so now you can see he has to commit to killing the slingers, which means these cataphracts are not just free to recharge these units, right? He pulls his horse archers, nice job here, but he has to send units to kill these guys. Of course, my slingers are mostly dead, but he still has to finish them off, or it's just bad for him. We have some random units in the back here. Whatever, boring, boring. And now his cataphracts, you can see they're trying to kill off my veteran spears, but my veteran spears are really going to do a number on him here. They're so heavy that they don't take as much impact damage from his katas, and they'll just start mowing these guys down as their HP depletes. His general finally dies over here, got caught by my heavy horse, so that's huge. So now, again, now it's the stage of the battle where I just want to be able to regroup. You can see I have units kind of spread all over the place, these guys, but if I can just get, you know, where I want to regroup is where my center of mass is, and that's closest to my general. Guys have so many units here, so if I can just get all my units that I can to my general and then just form a new box for the late game, I will win this game. If his cataphracts, however, can like isolate enough of these units and just kill them off, So I only have, like, let's say I only have these units left, then his Horse Archers and his remaining Cataphracts have a chance to win the game. But I think he's just wasted his Cataphracts a little bit too much. You know, he doesn't have enough, or maybe not wasted, but maybe I just did a good enough job boxing, essentially. But now is where I was saying, like, if you had 3 more slingers right now, just came up out of the backfield and were like, yo, like, these units are not surviving. They're so, you know, depleted that the slingers are just gonna fucking mow them down at this point in the battle. And Horse Archers can do that too, but he has been shooting the whole battle, and he's been getting really good shots, no doubt. But, you know, his Horse Archers don't have quite the ammo they had before. Also, my slingers are doing some damage, you know, whatever I can. Here I have 1 slinger left, I'm just gonna try to run them to safety. And he doesn't want to commit this Cataphract because this is his last Cato unit, so if I can get this unit to safety, that'll be huge to, you know, help shoot his Horse Archers. He does have some ammo left, but you can see I pretty much managed to box. I can't really run away here. These Veteran Spears are fighting a Parthian Sword. They could die, but it's fine. He only has 1 Parthian Sword. I have my General, which is pretty much full, and some other health units. Not a lot left. Definitely not a lot left. I mean, look at that. But he doesn't have enough Cataphracts. He would need like 2 Cataphracts, 2 healthy Cataphracts here to win this game. And he only has a half healthy one, so he's not going to win this. He just goes for a charge. He's probably running out of ammo. I just pop my abilities, whatever. He's gonna just run out of ammo here and lose. He goes for my slinger. Logical, but again, not quite enough. So very close game. We were not left with a lot, that's for sure. But you know, yeah, again, just kept my box integrity. Of course, you can't expect your box to last, right? Like perfectly, because otherwise the other player is not doing anything. But he busted through my box, but I was able to make it survive long enough to kill a lot of his infantry, and then get after some of his cav that didn't have that infantry support. Once the infantry support is gone, you know, you really want to chase down those cataphracts with the heavy horse, and I was able to do that. He had some nice counterplay with the horse archers, shooting down my heavy horse that chases cataphracts, but ultimately, you know, I did enough here, and just the pure numbers of melee units was enough to hold. But again, quite a close game. So, 2 interesting games. And now I skip this game because it's just a roll, and we go to grand finals. This was the one matchup that I had disad on, I would say. I got rolled Egypt, he had Getai. So grand finals was best of 3 for the first, like, so there's an upper bracket and a lower bracket. I was the upper bracket player, so if I win the BO3, I win, straight up. If Parmenion wins the BO3 though, then we play a BO1 title decider. So I have a little bit, you know, of a cushion because I'm coming from the upper bracket and he's coming from the lower bracket, which is fair. For the BO3, we each get 1 reroll. So if we don't like a faction, we can roll again. I thought this was close enough, and given the fact that I have so much, you know, a little bit more wiggle room, I didn't want to use my reroll right now. I thought I could win this matchup, but it should be very close. Or he has advantage essentially. So Egypt versus Getai, and again, I had no idea what he was gonna do with Getai. There's so many options. You can take the HA and the Dacian heavy bows, which are quite cheap for a good bow unit, and just like play to shoot people. Egypt, of course, doesn't really have great melee except for the Galatian Royal Guard, so he could go for like a melee spam with noble swords and Falksmen and axe warriors. Certainly viable with like 6 sword rushers and some cav, but you just don't know. So let's go see what happens.
As you command!
And lag for a second. But okay, so let's see this game. So again, very many options they could go for. We'll go over my army first. So I have to bring sort of a balanced approach, right? Because I don't know what he's going to do. So the first thing to do is bring 6 Tarentines, because Tarentines are going to be extremely useful no matter what. If he brings a lot of cav, like he's done here, they'll be able to shoot cav. They can kill archers in a kite. They can kill his horse archers, or at least scare them off. And they have good mass, so they can kill infantry in the late game. So no matter what, I'm most feeling pretty confident with 6 Tarentines. Egypt's other cav options are like really shit anyway, so I was like, whatever, I'm just not going to invest so much in cav, which again can be risky, but 6 Tarentines really takes away his ability to kite effectively, so I was like, okay, I'm not so scared of a kite. Out front for pike units, these guys were like, if he has a melee spam, then these guys will really force him to go around. I also have like 5 slingers. So, you know, my melee units or my pike units force him to go around, the slingers are going to combo well with that. They'll shoot him in the flank as he tries to wrap me. Then I also have 5 Carrion Axemen. So again, they combo really well with the pikes, force units to like flank and then get shot by the jabs. The pikes can rotate. These guys can shoot from behind the pikes. Very useful units. Not great in melee, but whatever. Then my meat of my infantry line is 2 thorax swords. Again, these guys are fine. They're going to beat axe warriors and beat falksmen quite easily. I can't only invest in Galatian Royal Guard, but I do have 2 Galatian Royal Guard to have some strong melee units, which just a tank. You know, my other units are very squishy. I have a lot of them, but they're very squishy. So my 4 thorax swords and Galatian Royal Guard are just to tank some fights. I give my carrion axemen time to throw their javelins. And originally I had 6 carrion axemen, but at the last minute I decided to swap a carrion axeman for 2 Egyptian infantry. Egyptian infantry are really shit, obviously, but I was thinking, look, if I just have so many carrying axemen and no support for them, like only the 4 pikes, then they're just not going to be able to fire their javelins, which makes them infinitely more useless. The whole point of carrying axemen is to get the damage from your javelins and then still have a melee unit left over. So I want to be able to fire as many javelins as possible, which means I just need some fodder units to tie his stuff down. And Egyptian infantry are a great fodder unit because they cost 200 and they have javelins. So they can shoot cav, and then, you know, he has to charge this unit before he can get to my javelin units, so then my javelins will fire as well. I don't really care what I shoot with the javelins, honestly. You know, if he has like an infantry rush with noble swords, then yeah, I want to try to focus his noble swords. But now he has like a cav rush here, so I don't really care what I shoot. I just need to fucking shoot my javelins so that I kill stuff. And the whole counter to a cav rush is just to kill not the cav or kill something fast so that you just have numbers advantage and you can support against this cav with infantry and cav combo. So the carrying axemen, you know, they can shoot his falksmen, his axe warriors, his cav, whatever. Just get the javelins out so that they've done their damage and then commit them in melee. So once this unit uses all 5 of its javelins, you know, it commits so that this guy can finish firing his javelins, so this guy can finish firing his javelins, because these guys are going to fire their javelins less because they're not as exposed on the flank, right? So these guys commit first, use their javelins, engage. These guys can throw some javelins. These guys can throw some javelins. Just support each other. Delay as long as possible so you use all your javelins. If you fire, you know, 120 times 5 javelins, you know, 120 men per unit times 5 javelins times 5 units. That's a lot of damage that you're getting off, right? So you want to try to maximize that, and then you still get the extra damage that these guys will do in melee, which is not 0. For cav, I only have 3 Camel Spearmen. I didn't want to bring Citizen Cav because I was like, they're just shit and expensive. I have a Ptolemaic Gen, so that's my 1 strong cav unit, plus the 6 Tarentines. Interesting army. I wasn't sure if it was good. I was highly considering a full kite with Egypt here, because he doesn't have that good cav, and I could take like, you know, 3 Ptolemaic cav and some Citizen cav and some Tarentines, with like a fuck ton of cheap slingers basically, because again, his infantry is not very good. He can only take so many noble swords because they're expensive. He can only take 4 axe warriors, and the rest is just falksmen, which are terrible against missiles. So like 10 slingers or something in kiting could be viable. But I decided not to do that, and it probably pays off because a cav rush like this would have just been very hard to deal with. So his army, we've kind of seen it already, but let's just go over it formally. He has 10 falksmen, there's 4 in the back and 3 on the flanks. So 10 falksmen, 4 axe warriors, that's 14 cheap melee units for the rush. Just 3 Dacian bows, and this is a great choice from him. Just 3 Dacian bows to like focus units. He's gonna be rushing me. It's gonna be very hard for me to get to these bowmen. Very, very hard. Which means they're gonna have free range to just shoot key targets like my Gen or my Royal Guard, whatever. Maybe my pikes. Just get them off the field. So we can do that. Then he has 5 noble horsemen, which is quite a few noble horsemen for sure. I don't really have an answer for them because I don't have cav. They are just about as good as my Ptolemaic cav. I think they're like very, very, very similar to the Ptolemaic cav. 60 armor, 100 health. Yeah, I mean they almost have exactly the same stats, honestly. I have like slightly better attack, but that's really negligible. Um, so yeah, 5 of the shot cav, very heavy shot cav, very tough for me to deal with, and 6 spear horsemen, not so bad, but they are heavy, so they will do some damage, and I have to kill this cav somehow. So I saw this army, and I was like, look, it's probably gonna be hard for me to Tarentine his cav early in the game, but if these cav are left without infantry support, they're fucking useless. I'll just box behind my fucking elite infantry and sit there and win the game. With my, you know, small number of cav and a lot of javelins. I can win that. He could cycle charge me to death, but again, my Tarentines will shoot him and make that impossible. So, I want to damage his Falksmen as much as possible, because they're just so free to kill because of the damage even javelins will do on them. Of course, javelins actually do a lot because they're have a lot of missile damage. Only 60 men shooting at them, but still, I just want to target his Falksmen, kill a lot of his Falksmen early on in the game, Keep some ammo on these Tarantines, of course. I'm keeping my 2 in the center, obviously. I don't want to shoot his Axe Warriors. The Javelins are not going to do enough damage to these Axe Warriors to make it worth it. I need to save some Javelins for his Cav, but if I can deplete these Falksmen, plus the damage my Slingers will do, um, that'll make his infantry rush on the flanks pretty much negligible. His infantry will just die on the flanks. I can send in my Thorax Swords, send in my Glacian Road Guard. I'll have Javelins from my Carrion Axemen, commit the Carrion Axemen to melee, Javelins from these guys. If I can kill his flank presence, and he's just rushing up the center, my pikes are in the center, which means this is not really going to be a rush. He's going to have to try to flank somehow. And then my Glacian Royal Guard can, like, kill his center rush, whatever, with the pikes. But if I can stop his flank rush from being effective, all of a sudden he has just too much cav to do anything. Like, he can surround me, sure, but I'll just box and defend with my Tarantines shooting him all the time. He can't really ever flank me without infantry, because my Tarantines will just do obscene damage to his Spear Horse. And of course I'll still have lots of javelins left over for his noble horse. And so you can see I'm just shooting his Falksmen here. I did quite a bit of damage. You can see 88 men here, 87 men here, 66 there. So all, good damage here. I'm not gonna kite here because I don't want to start running away and then he chases me. That's just risky. I'm just gonna sit here. My slingers are on skirmish mode, so I don't have to worry about them getting charged. Here I know he's gonna charge me, so I just run my Tarantines forward again, so I can get even more shots, and probably on his cav now, because he's running forward with them. So if I throw a javelin bullet even into his Falksman, they will hit his cav as well. If the timing is good. Is it? Yeah, it should be, as long as they actually throw missiles. There we go. We can see right into his cav. Right into his cav there as well. Killing one, not killing anything here, but his Falksmen are just so depleted. Here you can see I'm just baiting him in with my Tarantines in the center. I have to be a little careful here. But with all these javelins here, even if he charges my Tarantines here, it won't be worth it with all the javelins from the Carrions. So I think I reacted like the last second here, or no, he reacts actually, he decides not to go for this charge. I wasn't really microing it great. Here I say like, look, I can take a charge with my Camel Spears on his Spear Horse, this is fine. I don't want to take these guys charge on his Noble Horse, they'll just insta-die, but at least against the Spear Horse I can make them not charge my infantry. Again, it's just delay. If he charges my infantry, this infantry is going to die, and that means he's going to hit my next line faster. If I block a charge with the Camel Spears, this infantry can block a later charge from his units and slow him down. So now he tries to counter-charge me. He does kind of catch me here. A bit more than I would have liked, honestly. But you can see these guys are already starting to throw javelins on these guys. My slingers just run away on skirmish mode. And so he's going to get some of my Tarantines here. It's not really great for me. But he's going to take a lot of damage here. 6, something like that. Losses here. Maybe not so bad here because, it's kind of spread out. And he's just running across my line, which means the next Carrion Axeman is going to throw, and the next Carrion Axeman is going to throw. So this is quite good for me. Here he does almost catch me. Again, with the Spear Horse, he just runs forward. My Camel Spears countercharge his Spear Horse, and I'm not even going to engage. I should probably have engaged with these Egyptian infantry and saved my Camel Spears. That was probably bad. But you can see a lot of his Noble Horse die here. Not as many as I would have liked, maybe, but still a good amount. And now, you can kill my slingers, like, whatever. They should have ran away, but he's going to catch them eventually. Here, I just need to protect my Tarantines. They're actually mostly out of the fight here. They're not really getting caught. But they're losing some men. Here, my Egyptian infantry are going to go in. Again, he's now his Axe Warriors are taking my javelins. Again, I would rather shoot his Noble Horse here, but if I have to shoot something, I need to get the javelins out of these units. So, I'll shoot them. Here, my fucking Carrion Axeman shoot his Falksman down. Probably should have targeted this unit instead. And my Tarantines are safely out. My Thorax Swords are going to engage here, kill off this flank of units. They can absorb one Noble Horse charge and still easily kill these Falksmen. Over here again, just firing my javelins into the blob. 54 Noble Horse, 58. He's still pretty healthy here. Still pretty healthy. But he's only getting into my first line of units, and he's not even killed this Thorax Sword, so he's running through a Thorax Sword that's just getting free kills on his Noble Horseman. So his men will start to drop here. Again, not using my Ptolemaic Cav. I should have got my Camel Spearmen probably into this fight or into this fight earlier. But you can see, these units are just delaying. Now I take one of my Galatian Royal Guards. I'm just going to go fuck his Axe Warriors up because I don't want them standing in front of my pikes the whole game. This other Galatian Royal Guard is responding to fights over here because I figured these guys are really all weak. These Spear Horsemen are low, these Noble Horse are low. He's taking a lot of damage here. I'm just going to commit my Galatian Royal Guard into this blob and hopefully I'll kill one Cav. Here he does go for my pikes and I was like, like, I'll turn my pikes around and this noble horseman is just gonna die. Like, pike will die, but training a pike for this, like, this much damage on a noble horse is just worth it. And my Galatian Rearguard will just come in here and kill the shit anyway. This carrying axeman has probably used almost all its javelins. It can just go commit into this fight and kill off these Falksmen, kill off the spear horse. And that's, you know, completely fine. Here his general goes for some fucking dumbass charge. I'm not gonna lie, I do not know what he was thinking here. Like, yes, he has support, but I also have support, and I can just use my pikes to screen. I have 2 carrying axemen here. His general is gonna take more damage than my general doing this. Just, he might be able to fire into the blob with his archers, but even then, it doesn't matter. My support is javelins, so they're gonna do more damage to him. So this was just crazy. This was kind of fucking out of the fucking blue. I will not lie. His noble horse there is pretty much dead. And you can see now I retreat my Tarentines. They're all safe now. And now I can recommit and start shooting his blob. So here he tries to go after my Thorax Sword, but again, they can absorb 1 noble horse charge. And now my Tarentines can get insane javelin volleys on these guys. Over here, this Tarentine, a bit caught, but getting out. My Galatian Rearguard is just going to commit here. Carrying Axeman just going to slow this down, kill off his noble horse, probably for good. Unfortunately, I don't get a javelin volley here into the spear horse, that would have been big. But Galatian Rearguard do not care about the spear horse maybe killing them, like, it's not going to happen. Here he does kind of get into my Tarentines here, so again, not ideal, but look at these javelin volleys, for example. So nice. He even tries to, like, charge through my Thorax Sword here to get to them. But now my Camel Spear even ties his Noble Horseman down, and all of a sudden, this fight is just won. Like, his Noble Horse can no longer retreat because his infantry is not in the fight. And now I have a Thorax Sword and a Carrying Axeman killing his Noble Horse with the Spear or Camel Spear, so this is going to be a good fight for me. Here again, Galatian Rearguard just tanking the frontal fight here. Just killing off his frontal units so that gaps will open up in my favor as well to go kill his archers. I also send a Tarentine around the back, just having 1 or 2 Tarentines back here that he has to respect. His general's down to 33, my general's down to 44, so as I said, I got the better of that exchange. Now his general's at 33, so if I get Tarentines with javelins behind, his general really is going to start to suffer. But again, I want to use the javelins on the units that are, like, most threatening. His general's not really a threat anymore. He can't really do anything with that without risking him dying, so I don't need to use him like that much. This central fight is just going to be fine for me. He might end up winning it because Axe Warriors are better than Carrions, but I just have a lot of units here, and that's like whatever. These units don't really matter. It's just all about killing his cav and then consolidating around my Royal Guard. Nice shots from his archers now, like I said. They can kill these spikes pretty quick. Here again, he does escape, I guess, with his noble horse. I probably wish I did more damage there. Here I'm just going for his archers, but I do kind of get caught here. Not ideal. Here my general can easily snipe a spear horse, no problem. He does go for my general though with his other horse unit here, his noble horse. This is kind of a danger for me. I have to be a little careful. Because my general is going to get charged here. And so he will take a lot of damage, but I have so much support. That I can just send into this fight, that his noble horse will die as soon as my Carrying Axeman get here and my Tarentines. These guys don't have javelins, so whatever, just sacrifice. I'm just gonna run my general away. I do need my general to survive, or my Carrying Axeman morale will be too shit to win. Here Pike's just being fucking annoying, and here I also ran a Tarentine in. He does nicely get a spear horse involved in this fight, but it also forces archers to look at me, which means they're not shooting, you know, important units like this Galatian Rearguard, which is just tanking his noble horses at the moment. And again, his general done at 32, this noble horse 30, this one is about to die, this noble horse here 54, okay, it's pretty healthy, but it's also fighting a Galatian Rearguard and Carrion, so it's going to lose some men. These Tarentines still have javelins, so these spear horse are dead. So all of a sudden this cav force, you know, this spear horse is about to die to my full camel spear, so I have a full camel spear, and like all of my Tarentines are healthy. And the thing about Tarentines is, in extended melee against the noble horse, they're actually going to do fine, because noble horse suck in extended melee. The only thing the noble horse are good at is on the charge. And he doesn't have any spear horse pretty much left. These guys are also very low. So my Tarentines are about to become a very strong fighting force, because yes, he can charge them with his noble horse, but he can only charge one at a time, and I'll just fucking blob him with the rest of my units. I still have infantry, and my infantry advantage is pretty big. Like, this is a full, like, a pretty healthy Carrying Axeman, mid Thorax Sword, very healthy Galatian Rearguard that he's going to struggle to kill. This other Galatian Rearguard, you know, it's going to kill off a lot of this blob. I have a lot of fucking random ass units too. He does have quite a few infantry units left, but again, another full Carried Axeman. This Galatian Rearguard is going to be really tough to kill. I'm winning this left flank pretty decisively now. Camel Spears, they can absorb 1 noble horse charge from 17 men, but he also commits his general in here, so this is going to mean this Camel Spear is going to die. But now I just get out a carrying Axeman, just run it into this blob, because I know his noble horse is dead, my general is safe over here. Slinger is still somehow alive, just firing into the blob. He hasn't really chased my slingers down, because that's not really something, he doesn't have time to do that really. He needs to go after my uh, sort of more valuable units. And now you can see he's running out of cav, and now these Tarentines say, look, we can just go kill these archers now. He might be able to defend for now, but again, yes, this is only 2 Tarentines, but 2 more are about to be free. They're 28, 59, 44, 13, so it's just too many units for him to stop because he can only block 1 unit with one of his cav units, and he's only going to have two cav units free. His general probably isn't going to be free for a while, and his general I think just dies. So yeah, him going for that charge in the early game really is going to be a problem here. He did do a number on my general, which takes my general in the fight, but now my general is able to survive, his wasn't, and now is the perfect time to snipe his archers because the morale is so shit for all of his men, and this is a problem. All of his units are very cheap, his Falksmen and Axe Warriors. They are not going to like the general being dead and facing much superior Galatian Royal Guards and uh, Thorax Sword. So, and my Tarentines again are still alive, and they can do great damage to his infantry in the late game once his cav is dead. So I've pretty much navigated the rush. I did so much damage to his heavy cav. Now my Tarentines can just charge in here, and yes, he does get a counter charge, but his archers just rout because of the general death. So I hit a really good timing to kill his archers. But you can think about it, even if his archers didn't rout here, look how much cav is on the way. He only has like 20 men here, 19 men here, and they're about to get countercharged by Campbell Spearmen at 35 and 2 healthy Tarentines. I have another Tarentine back here. My general's still healthy to clean up some of his infantry units, and I have 3 slingers, so infantry units are pretty useless here against my slingers. Galatian Roguard just popping off 220 kills. I just go into his general here. All of his archers are dead. My Camel Spearmen will just do really well in this fight against noble horsemen that are both depleted and didn't get a charge on them. I pull out my Tarentines here to just charge his. I try to second win my Galatian Royal Guard here, which I do, but it means that my general didn't get a charge on this Falksman, and actually doesn't rout here, so I actually start to rack up some kills against Cavs because of their high attack and bonus for leverage. But it doesn't really matter. You can see I have so much remaining here. Heavy infantry still left, slingers, cav, everything you will really need. His cav is battle route. My slingers can just focus down these cav units and end them. And my carrying axemen, still pretty healthy here, getting some nice kills with their javelins, and then in melee against depleted Falks units and some axe warriors, I guess. We have a very close game and quite an interesting one. This was by far the closest game, and the trickiest game with faction disad, and also having to use those Tarentines like pretty much to perfection, as well as the Carrions, and sort of my other units, infantry units, with so little cav against so much cav, it can be very tricky um, to survive. But if you survive, you start to work your way back into the game because their cav starts getting depleted, can no longer charge and do so much damage. Your Tarentines increase in value because their javelins will just do so much more, and their melee capabilities will start to shine as the enemy cav is dead. And uh, these heavy infantry really proved their worth. Carrions as well. Pikes did okay, and slingers were just a nuisance. Forcing him to charge the slinger and chase it down instead of engaging in melee. Or if you don't kill the slinger and you just turn around to help some melee fight, then the slingers will just come back and start throwing stones at you. So very tough fight, but well played to Parmenion. I thought he had a good idea here, but just barely didn't work. Really by the skin of my teeth, I was able to take this out. So really close game, and we go finally to the last game. This is a bit of a meme game as well. We rolled Nabatea Arvasi, and Nabatea is actually pretty good on these rules because they can just fucking rush. And Arvasi is gonna have a hard time withstanding a heavy cav rush. So goes for an interesting tactic. He tries to just take more cav than I have. So we can quickly go over the armies. Actually, I'll have to play because it takes a while to start. I have 5 Desert Heavy Lancers, which are very heavy, and 5 Nabatea Noble Cav, which are just heavy. But if you look at his Cav, the Celtiberian Cav are medium, so they're really going to struggle against the Shock Cav, and even against the Nabatea Noble Cav, which is basically just Cappadocians. Basically the same stats, and of course these guys are basically Thessalians with heavier mass and better attack and better charge. So like slightly better. So they're really going to do a number. So he went for like extremely heavy cav here to try to counter my cav. He knew the cav rush was going to come. It's pretty straightforward. But the rest of my army is just like axe warrior spam. I think I have like 12 axe warriors or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 axe warriors and 1 sword. And the axe warriors are just good, they're cheap, they will kill his cheap units, they will not kill Scutaria or painted ones. But again, if he's invested in painted ones and Scutaria, he doesn't have enough to deal with my cav. So he has a tough decision to make there about how to deal with the cav. Then I also have like 6 slingers. Originally I took like 8 slingers. I was like, why not? Like, they're just gonna fucking shoot the whole game, and there's nothing you can really do, because it's like just gonna be a fucking massive cav charge, and he can't really take the time to go after my slingers, or if he tries to, he's gonna be going into my backlines, where my cav support and infantry support will be very close, so these slingers can just shoot all day at his units, shoot as cav, shoot as infantry, whatever. But I ended up going with 6 slingers. I got an extra axe warrior, just to help the rush, whatever. His army is like kind of similar. He has like 5 noble cav, which are very nice. These guys are great, but it's a big investment considering I have shock cav for 870 and these guys are 800. Spending 1300 times 5 on cav when you're still losing the infantry, like cavalry fight in general, because these Celt Iberians are really going to be fucking useless against the shock cav and against the Nabatean nobles. And the fact of having these 5 noble cav means that he just has really shit infantry. He has Iberian swords, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Iberian swords, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fucking Iberian spears, and yeah, so yes, he has 19 infantry, very nice, but they're all like one-shottable by my cav, and they also don't beat my axe warriors in melee like ever. So it's very hard to justify this. I feel like go for like 2 or 3 noble cav, spam a bunch of Celt Iberian cavs. Yes, they can't do that much in melee, but you just use an Iberian spear wall to let your Scutarii or painted ones get into the melee, especially painted ones with the fear effect, like 2 or 3 painted ones, the rest Scutarii. Just run the spear wall forward, engage the melee, get your regular fucking units in melee with the axe warriors, your Scutarii and stuff, and then just use your cav defensively until your Scutarii wins the infantry war. That could work, but again, then you have to deal with the slingers. It's tough. It's definitely not trivial how you win this as Harfasi. I think I have the faction advantage, so he goes for this. But now my plan is basically just like, especially with how close his units are together, I calculate basically this, like, if I let him charge me, it's like the stupidest thing I can do. Because then my infantry will lose. If he charges my infantry and then he gets counter charges, he will just charge with his Iberian swords and he'll have spearmen in reserve, so there's nothing I can really do. My infantry will lose because they got charged, and then I'll lose the game. So all I have to do is just like counter charge him everywhere, and one of 2 things happens. If he does a good charge where our cav just meet in the middle and nobody's infantry get hit, then my infantry will support the fight better, because my infantry are just stronger in melee, and also my slingers and my cav will mean that his cav will die, except for where his noble cav is. Where his noble cav is, he will win those fights, but he'll still take a lot of damage on the charge, and I'll win everywhere else, which means I'll win all the flanks, he'll win the center. My slingers will do too much damage, and my infantry will kill his infantry, my cav on the flanks will dominate, and so he'll just be left with the center against 2 flanks, and he'll get surrounded and lose. Or if he's like not good, his charge bad, I'll hit his infantry, or he might let me charge his infantry with my cav. And then my infantry will follow up, and he'll maybe, I don't know, countercharge me or whatever, which means my cav will take more damage, his cav will be fully healthy, but his infantry will just be one shot and dead, and then I'll just win the game, because I'll have cavalry, yes, depleted cav, but very healthy infantry, because his infantry won't do any damage to mine, plus some depleted cav, and that will easily win against his cav, especially with all the slingers and stuff. So I just decided, as long as I get a charge into forward, as long as I charge and do not get my infantry charge, I will win the game. We can skip forward here because I go for an attack here. I just like pre-target all his cav with my infantry. But then he like fucked up his formation because he was like fucking running around like a crazy lunatic, and he fucked up his formation. So I was like, okay, just like reset your lines and I'll chill. Doesn't really look like he fucked it up that bad, but it looks like the flanks, yeah, were just kind of got messed up. But I don't really think, yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's not really the same as like in the first game where I formation glitch, because that was like the fight was already happening, so there's nothing I could really do to say like, no, let's not, like, just wait. But that wouldn't really make any sense. So I was like, whatever, I'll just let it reform. No skin off of my back to do that really, so that's just the right thing to do. So skip. And so now I think he was like, okay, we're good. So we re-attack. Again, I just like target his cav because I assume his cav are going to come forward. If his cav don't come forward, again, I'm going to charge with my cav anyway. So I'm going to obliterate his infantry if his cav doesn't come forward. So I don't need to target my infantry on his infantry. I just want to make sure my cav will, or my infantry will get into the cav fight if there is one. And so here I just run forward. I see him running forward, and so I'm like, okay, he's gonna go for the charge. He might try to bait me, but at this point, again, I cannot let my infantry get charged. My infantry are already like running forward, so I don't want to get them charged. So it's time for me to just commit fully here. So you can see I give all the attack orders like pretty quickly here. I came from right to left. You can see I just countercharge all of his units. I fuck up here, I guess. I hit. Even here, he does bait me, but again, he misses. I get into the charge animation, so even though I was targeting his cav behind his infantry, they hit the charge animation, so they just charged anyway and charged both of his units. And like I said, his infantry really can't stand this. He also let me like hit both infantry units. If I only hit his spearmen and his swords were kept completely safe, at least they could like rejoin the fight. It wouldn't be good because my infantry are just better support, but at least he could rejoin the fight. But he let me hit both of his infantry like most of the time. Here he baits with a lot of his Iberian cav or his noble cav, so that was kind of good, I guess. You know, some of my lancers are just dead immediately, but a lot of his cav is also taking heavy losses. And again, most of my cav is just healthy enough to like recommit. He like counter charges, but again, the Iberian cav, Cal Iberian cav are really medium. They're not really gonna kill my axe warriors in one charge, and my slingers are just focusing the blob. And now my cav can like rejoin the fight, and everywhere where his cav is, my cav is just gonna kill them. You can see his infantry just gets rolled. His general tries to like come in and support, but he does run away pretty fast. My general like shouldn't come in here. He does though. Okay, I run away at the last second. This sword. Remember, I left this sword in reserve. I kind of had like a fucking checkerboard, and I had one sword next to my general. That was my gen. And this is exactly why I do this. So if my general ever fucks up like this, my sword can just run in and save his ass. So that's why I do it here. You can see the sword just allows my general to retreat. I get some javelins in, shoot his general down. My general can just escape for free. Otherwise, he was probably a goner. If my general dies, fucking Nabate morale is so trash. But you can see here, isolated cav fights. My cav just dominates. I have some free cav here. I have some infantry support for a cav fight here. And so this is just going in my favor. You know, he doesn't have any infantry pretty much at this point. They all just fucking routed. So now my infantry plus cav is much stronger than his cav. Even if his cav is slightly healthier, or in the case of his noble cav, slightly better than mine, it really doesn't matter because I have infantry support and good cav, even if it is a bit depleted. So I decided to just kind of shift this way because this fight was not as good. I missed a charge over here. I didn't charge one of his cav units. So he kind of got in a bit more clean. I'm still going to win probably over here, but I just wanted to shift my focus over here where I'm dominating. I have these spare cav units, spare infantry units. I'm winning all these fights. His general's getting focused by slingers. You know, again, I don't really care if he kills some of my slingers, like whatever. Here it's like an isolated cav. If he takes the time to chase my slingers, I'll be killing his cav in the meantime, so he can't really afford to go after my slingers. And I'm just gonna, you know, focus this fight. So here he has a bit better support. He kills off my really depleted heavy lancer, but I just have so much support. Infantry against, you know, even noble cav are great, but if you have infantry support, it's not going to matter, and they're just routing because the battle is clearly in my favor. And yeah, that's it. So those were the battles from the tournament. Pretty fun. Definitely something different. You know, a lot of different styles. So like you had some rush gameplay for me. You had some like cav heavy stuff. You had like the Roman infantry. You had like the Boyai box, the Egypt box. A lot of different things you can do. I didn't really go for like full kite. I didn't really get matchups to go for like full kite, which I definitely think is like strong. It's mostly my opponents getting the chance to do that. Like the Nvidia, I would consider was like a kite army with 7 slingers and shit. Or maybe that's just standard, but I didn't really have a lot of factions or matchups that I felt like I could just take a lot of slingers and play for the missile advantage. But I think that's generally pretty good. But you know, slingers still useful always. I think they prove their worth in this game, the Egypt game, yeah, even kind of the Boya game. But overall, yeah, I just wanted to just go over these battles quickly. They were a lot of fun. Thanks to Bubbles for hosting the tournament and like organizing it. Uh, definitely, definitely was a lot of fun. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to sign up for the con if you didn't do that. Yeah, con is cool. But yeah, GG's, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Peace.